What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Every Week We Follow. Tonight, I am joined by fellow Fanalyst Joe. He's a Brighton fan, and we are going to put the world to rights about all things Brighton and our fixture coming up tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. kickoff at the Amex Stadium. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for coming on, mate. Most appreciated.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah, all good, mate. As I said to you, a little bit stressed today, but trying to relax. Got a good game tomorrow to look forward to. So, yeah, all good, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming, mate. So, thought we'd start off, mate, just by if you could tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in Fanalysis. For those of you who don't know what Fanalysis is, it's a brand new football app that is coming soon to all your smartphones, and it's basically where it's built for fans by fans, and we're here to drive conversation and healthy debate, and hopefully we can get just the conversation flowing and in the right way and have some decent collabs going on, which is one of the things that we're doing here. Is give us access to fellow Fanalysts and opposition fans, and I think that's been a great thing for everyone who makes content, us included. So yeah, Joe, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you kind of got involved with it and how that worked for you?
Yeah, of course. So I've been running a Brighton Hove Albion podcast for four years now. Yeah, so since 2021, it came off of the back of our home Euros that we had. Me and my friend Toby, we did a podcast over the Euros about England. And then when it came to the Premier League season and obviously the disappointment that we faced with England that year, we were like, okay, let's move on from England and we'll talk about what we love the best, and that's Premier League football. And I said to him, I don't really want to talk about just the Premier League. I want to talk about what I love the most, the Albion. And that's where our podcast, Albion Obsessed, was born.
Nice.
And we've been going now for 4 years. We've done a feature-length documentary on our old home, the Withdean. We were given access all areas to our old stadium, which was incredible to do. We've had really good guests on, like ex-players. We've interviewed Fatboy Slim, which has been just an absolute dream come true. So, all of this content stuff has just come from just a pure love for football and for the Albion. And I think that's where I fell into Fanalysis, really. They were recruiting and sort of sending out lots of messages in different Brighton channels, and I was lucky enough to be contacted by, I think, Ellis, and it all went from there. Went up to London, had an audition, and then here we are, and we've made a big old family of Fanalysis starting 11s, which has been really, really lovely. So it's great to get to know you guys, get to know all the other fans as well. So that's how it's all started for me, really. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, a similar story, basically. We've not been going that long, James and I, on the podcast, really. We started, you're on a special anniversary show, really. It's our year anniversary today. We started on YouTube. We're putting a little bit of a compilation thing together for a couple of weeks' time, but we was hoping to get it out for this week, but it's been manic. He's got a young son like you, so he works full time, so it's been a little bit difficult. But I did go to his, and we were putting something together. But yeah, it was one of those where we just we wanted to start in COVID, mate, about 4 or 5 years ago. But James was working in London at the time. And I could never pin him down, if I'm honest. So, and I didn't feel confident enough to start it on my own. I was like, no, I want to do it as a duo. I think it would work better. I think we've got good banter. We've known each other for a long period of time. And then December last year, he got a promotion, which meant he was basically based working from home, and said, mate, let's do it. Let's just jump on and do it. And it's just grown massively, really. Like, in terms of, it's not massive yet, but it's grown massively for what it is on YouTube. Like, we've got 1,600 subscribers, 4,000 followers on TikTok, and for the time frame, so I'm told by other people, is actually a decent growth in year one. So, we'll see where it goes. And this just kind of landed in our lap. It was in April. Ellis contacted me, said, look, I've seen you on YouTube. We've got actually doing some filming for the FA Cup, which is April time, and we're in the semi-final. He said, if Villa get to the final, would you be interested in doing some filming? It'll be all expenses paid trip to Wembley. You'll get to go on the pitch. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's do that. And then obviously we got spanked by Crystal Palace, which was just,
disappointed. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Not as disappointed. That on that day we were walking to Wembley, bumped into loads of Palace fans going, "Oh, you're going to do us today?" Like, we were in a great run of form at that point. I think we won 8 games on the spin, and then we just didn't turn up. Anyway, after the game, I messaged Ellis back and said, I know that didn't work out, but if anything else comes up, like let us know. And about a month later, he dropped me a message and said, we're doing this app. If you could you come up to London and audition, and the rest is history. So I'm hoping that it blows up, mate, because I think it's got such potential for fans to have that debate, get off the cesspool that is X and all that abuse and all that kind of nonsense, and build something solid. I think it's got the backing, right? So let's see what happens, see where it takes us. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get on to the game, mate. It's a 7:30 kickoff. We're travelling down to the Amex. Hopefully, we can have a similar result to what we had last year. I was there last year when we won 3-0, and I wasn't expecting it. It was one of those games where I thought, this is the moment, can Villa rise to the next level, and push on to kind of, because we were obviously in that Champions League hunt, just like you guys were, and it was a great result, but we never kind of pushed on. But I wanted to say, mate, as I've got you on, just how impressed I was with Brighton as a whole, and as a club, and how it was run. We got there really early, and we were in the fan zone, which is relatively new, right? It's not been open very long at the Amex. And we were a bit unsure because, obviously, where you're situated, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So you can either... I was with my nephew and my daughter, so we didn't want to go kind of drinking to pubs. We just wanted to hang around by the ground. And there wasn't really anywhere local. And so I just kind of nervously asked the chef, mate, are away fans loud in there, sort of thing, in the fan zone? It's like, oh, yeah, come on in. And actually, there was quite a few Villa fans in there, but it was just a real homely, welcoming kind of environment, mate. And I thought the stadium itself was absolutely beautiful. Like padded seats in the away end.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome,
mate. I had the best comfortable football match experience ever. I don't even see it comfortably like that at the Villa. I pay a lot of money to go each week. So yeah, I was on Sky this morning, mate, talking about kind of going back to the Champions League kind of dream. I guess we were lucky enough to be in it last season. We missed out on goal difference, and I think there aren't many Villa fans that won't say that's where we want to be. Our owners are stating that, publicly. We want to be competing for it every year. We missed out again. But it's for you guys, where as a Brighton fan base are you at with that? Because you've been around in that middle of the table, between 5th and 10th for the last 3 or 4 seasons, but haven't really just managed to get into those Champions League places. Is that the aspiration?
Yeah, I think, like you guys had the taste of Champions League last season, and your owners, really want to get back there. I think that's the same for us. Obviously, we qualified for the Europa League, the same. I think you guys were in the Europa League at the same time as us as well, or was it conference?
The Conference League, the first year that it was.
Yeah, so that was incredibly special for us as a club, considering where we've come from. I don't know if you've seen our new documentary on Amazon Prime yet, but it's called Stand or Fall, and it just covers all of our history from, being 1 point and 1 goal away from not existing as a football club to then that rise now to the expectation from fans is, we should be fighting for Europe. And it's crazy for me because, all of our wage bills suggest that we're always punching above our weight in terms of how well we do in the league. But our recruitment says different. We've replaced player upon player upon player, and we just seem to keep bouncing back. People always say when will Brighton fail? When will they not replace someone as well? But I think we've just had so much proof that our recruitment works that I don't think any Brighton fan would ever doubt it, this model. We're always sort of 4 or 5 steps ahead. So, I think it's crazy to me to even mention Champions League football. I'd be happy with Conference League every year. But to be in and around there now, we were only 6 points off of it last year. And considering the points we dropped last year, we really could have been there. We threw away a 2-goal lead against Wolves. We threw away a 2-goal lead against Leicester twice. So we really could have been pushing that door as well. So I don't think it's crazy to think that we could get there. But those dreams for me are still a little bit wild, and I can't quite wrap my head around it. So Europa League again would be nice. Conference League I'd settle with. Anything else, again, as Brighton fans, I think we're so humble in the fact that we're just doing well in the Premier League. a lot of fans get a little bit annoyed. You should be looking forward. You should be looking to progress. But as I say, considering where this club's come from, if we're an established Premier League side, that's all that matters to me.
100%. Like I think you hit the nail on the head there. And I say this all the time, that like the key to football is consistency, right? So that's what fans want to see, because all Premier League fans want to be in the Premier League consistently year on year. That's where it's at, because once you get out of it, it can be very difficult to get back. And we've seen it with so many teams, right? And when you have like you say that rise from from where Brighton have come from to now, it's incredible. And I think you're right. The recruitment is beyond belief. I've said this time and time again. I thought you've sat there and gone, surely Brighton are going to drop off now. They've just lost all their best players. They've lost Casido. Like, how do you do it? And you're right. It's down to recruitment. And I say this about Unai Emery because I find them we're very similar. Like we've done this off the back of a Steven Gerrard team that couldn't win a game. Really, if you look at our starting 11. 7 of those players are not Emery signings. We're still trying to, and because of PSR, we're still trying to build a foundation of a squad, and it's really difficult because it's like he's having to take players that he probably doesn't want but knows he has to, and then he's magically getting the best out of these players, and you go, how's that happened? Like it's incredible to watch, because honestly, I can't believe this fixture is 4th versus 5th. Because if like 4 or 5 weeks ago, if we'd have been playing you, I'd have been like, oh God, we're useless. We couldn't score a goal. We couldn't, we just looked so terrible. We had a very disruptive summer where it looked like players were going to be on the way out, and I think the side of Jacob Ramsey just seemed to rock the boat in our dressing room, like publicly, like. Players were coming out and going like, you don't know the half of it, and it was just, I felt for it. And then when we started the way we did, and didn't pick up points, and I thought, God, are we in a relegation scrap here? Have the players down tools? I've always had complete faith in Unai Emery. I think he's a world-class coach that, if given time, I think he's going to bring the glory back to Villa. I really do. Like, we've got a really tough run of fixtures starting with you guys tomorrow, and I mean. I said to you, I sent you a text earlier tonight where I was like, I'll take the draw now, right? I'll just take a point and we move on. Because our away form's not great. We're very solid at home. We've only lost 1 in 24 league games at home, which is just incredible. We just can't beat your arch rivals Crystal Palace for some reason. I don't know what's going on. Right? It makes me so frustrated, but they've got our number. And so I really hope that tomorrow, because I asked the question to our beloved TikTok fans, like if Villa got to the end of December with picking up points away at Brighton, beating Arsenal at home, potentially taking points off them away. We've got Chelsea and Arsenal at the end of the month. We could be in a title race. Like Sky are talking about Chelsea being in the title race, and they're above us on goal difference. And I'm thinking, well, we've got to play these teams, and similar to Brighton, really, no one really talks about us. Do you ever feel like you go around doing your business and you're competing and you're doing all these wonderful things, but nobody really talks about us pushing and disrupting that top echelon 6, right?
Yeah, 100%. And you look at the start that Sunderland have had, and I know it's romantic because they're a newly promoted side. Newly promoted sides have done terribly in the last few years, and it is an astonishing start from them. But actually, Fabian Hertzler has got one of the most positive points to game ratio that anybody's ever had as a Brighton manager. And Glenn Murray was quoted before the Nottingham Forest game saying that Brighton were having struggles after Roberto De Zerbi left. And I'm thinking, how are we struggling when we've got a better game to points to game ratio? Yeah, and whilst there were loads of question marks last season over Fabian Hertzler, there really were. We lost 7-0 to Forest. We played with one midfielder. At times, things were horrific. We lost 2 goal leads, left, right, and centre. But at the end of the season, we strung together, I think, six wins on the bounce or something like that. And we looked unstoppable. And we stumbled out of the blocks this year a little bit, but we find ourselves 5th. Like you, I would never have thought, with the starts that both clubs have had, this would be a 4th versus 5th fixture come December. So actually, we're doing well, and we're trying to find that consistency in a league where consistency is near on impossible. There are so many good teams this year, and there's such a tight gap between like 12th and us.
Yeah.
That, you know, one or two games could just change it all. So yeah, getting these results over the line. We're already talking about this game as a Champions League 6-pointer, but again, like I said to you, Champions League just spins my mind. I can't even think about it.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. And like, if you look at both teams' form, mate, we're very similar in the last 4. I think you've won 3, drew 1, and we've won the last 4. I genuinely believe this game could go either way. I think it's going to be fine margins, if I'm honest. Which brings me to really the differences in our squad, and I think the big one for me, mate, is the goals. We are, although we are winning, and we're only scoring goals outside the area, which is really odd, right? Because I promise you, if you watch back on our James and I shows of this podcast, we go, why do we never shoot from outside the area? Right, and now all of a sudden, it's kind of, we've changed the complete way that we play. Ollie Watkins' goals have just dried up completely. He's only scored 1, but we're scoring goals from midfield for fun, and we're hitting quality from outside the area. And I don't know if it's some sort of part of Emery's master plan to fool teams into think we're not going to go direct, or we're not going to aim to kind of utilise Watkins in that way. But he's shot of confidence at the moment, mate. He looks like the shadow of himself. And while Emery in his press conference today, he was kind of like, I've got complete faith in him. The goals will come, I'm sure. I don't think he's got faith in himself. I'm watching him play week. You know, when you kind of go, okay, look, that sounds like a manager who's just backing his player, which he has to do. But, you know, when you, as you probably know with any player that you watch week in, week out, you know when something is not sitting right. His body language is different. His movement's different. He's not doing the basics that he used to do so well. You know, we've only got Daniel Marlin to compare him to, but the movement between the two of them are night and day, and you go, oh, what is going on? And so that could be the downfall, really. But you guys have got the wonderful Danny Welbeck. What is going on? Yeah. Talk to me about Danny Welbeck, mate. How old is he? About 50 now? Like, I don't know what's going on.
How long have you got on Danny Welbeck? Yeah. Goodness me. What a player. Like, for me, like, I always look at my Facebook memories, and I'm a big England fan as well as a big Brighton fan, and you know, Danny Welbeck back in his day scored bags for England. I think he's got one of the best goals to game ratio as an England player, and I was raving about him in like 2014 on my Facebook memories, and now I'm sat here like he's at our club, he's in the blue and white stripes, and he's playing the best football of his career. We've somehow seemed to put his injuries behind him. He's in a really good physical shape. He seems to have adapted his game incredibly well because he's not got the blistering pace he used to have. We've surrounded him with really creative players. Obviously, we used to have Pascal Gross, who was an absolute magician with the ball. Now we've got really pacey wingers in Karim Matoma and Yankuba Minter who can feed him the ball. We've got Junior Rutter who can do all of the dirty work and all the running for him. So, yeah, like this season he started, it looked as though he had lead in his boots a little bit and he wasn't getting into the games. But again, he's, you know, smart enough to understand his limitations, and he's smart enough to know how to utilize his movement in terms of getting the best out of himself again. So I think we're lucky in the fact that we seem to recruit model professionals, you know, James Milner, for example, who you guys know very well.
Mate, love him. Still love him now. He's an absolute cool hero,
Yeah, exactly. And like my auntie's a Villa fan, and she absolutely adores James Milner as well. So I know how much he meant to you guys. So yeah, in terms of that recruitment, it's just so important for us to have all of those experienced heads, as well as all of the really raw, fresh talents that can, you know, they're quick enough and they're raw enough to get past the player. And then you've got Danny Welbeck with the coolest heads on his shoulders who can just bury his chances when he's given them. Yeah. If you're asking Danny Welbeck to dribble through some players, it's never going to work. But if you've got Danny Welbeck waiting in the box to finish, you can bet your house on it that it'll do it.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that in a minute, mate, because we'll go through our predicted lineups and we'll talk about the threats of what and how that's going to look. So just to break up the show, mate, we do this for all the opposing fans. We're going to get into our hat trick quiz, mate. All right, which is basically it's 3 questions. It's the tap-in, it's the curler from the edge of the box, and then it is the thunderbolt. And there's a bonus question there at the end if you so need it, or just for bragging rights, mate. So, like I say, It's nothing too taxing. I promise you that it's kind of going to be just a bit of fun. And we'll let me just get it up and we can get into it. Right. Okay. Right. So we start with the tapping, mate. This is kind of nice, easy one. Hopefully,
I'm going to embarrass myself here.
And I'm sure with all your footballing knowledge from the conversations we've just had, mate, you're going to get this no problem. Right. Okay. So when Brighton won a 2-1 at Villa Park in November 2020, right, the COVID times, who scored Brighton's winning goal? Now, if you're struggling, I can give you multiple choices.
I know the two players that scored that day. It was Danny Welbeck and Solly March. Who scored the winner? I will say Solly March scored the winner.
Mate, nice one. Simple tapping. Okay. There you go. That's a Danny Welbeck finish right there. Spot on the money, mate. Okay, so onto the curler, mate. You're on the edge of the box. You've got a bit of time and space. Can you pick the top corner out? Right, on the final day of the 22-23 season, Villa beat Brighton 2-1 at Villa Park to secure European football. Which Brighton player scored for the Seagulls that day?
Oh, no. Which Brighton's player scored for the Seagulls? My word. I know. Weirdly, I know who scored your goals. It was Douglas Luiz and Ollie Watkins, wasn't it?
It was. That's correct.
Also, if viewers are seeing my painted nails, it's with my daughter.
It's either that, mate, or have you ever seen Dexter? Because that looks like a bit like the first season of Dexter.
Oh dear. Who scored our goal?
Would you like a couple of answers? Because I can give you more choice. Yeah. So it's either Alexis McAllister or Dennis Undav.
It was Dennis Undav, yeah.
It was, yeah, correct. Back of the net, mate. Called it in. Right, so this is the Thunderbolt, mate. This is a 30-yard screamer that everyone's going to go goal of the month kind of thing, right? When Brighton were promoted back to the Premier League in 2017, which former Aston Villa player was in their squad that season?
Former Aston Villa player was in our squad that season.
No, he was in your squad, and he didn't play a game in the Premier League for you because he was injured.
That's Steve Sidwell.
Ah, mate, back of the net. Yes, our Ginger Warrior. Mate, yeah, brilliant. Okay, mate, so that's a hat-trick. You've got the hat-trick, mate. I think you're the first one to get all three straight off. So I'm trying to get some little badges, mate, that I can send out that you've scored a hat-trick on and a jingle playing for this. But, we're low budget at the moment, but we'll get there.
I'll take it.
We've got a bonus question. So just for bragging rights, right? This is bonus VAR time. We get the VAR out. Right? Can you do it? So which Brighton defender scored his first ever Premier League goal against Aston Villa in November 2019?
It was... What is my brain filled with? Honestly, I think it was Adam Webster.
Ah, mate, spot on. 4 out of 4. You've absolutely smashed it, mate. Well done. Congratulations.
I know, such useless rubbish.
No, mate, you'll be pleased to know that you are the first guy who's ever got 4 out of 4, mate. So you are on the leaderboard, mate, up there with the best of them. Well done. Right. Happy days. That leads us to our predictions, mate. We will now get into your starting lineup. I think that's... Get this up. Yeah, there we go. So if you want to talk us through this, mate, and as we were talking about Danny Welbeck, we'll get there to him last, but let us know who should we be looking out for. Is this your predicted 11, or do you think this is what will actually start?
So I always try and go into the brain of Fabian Hertzler, and whenever I do predicted 11s, I never sort of say like what I would like to see, because I think that's just sort of a waste of anyone's time, because I'm not a Premier League manager. I think Bart Verbrugge going to start. I think he's our number one, and he's been absolutely phenomenal over the last few games. His confidence from saving that penalty in the last minute against Brentford seems to have flowed into the Forest game, and he kept his second away clean sheet of the season. So really impressive from him. Mats Vifa has been great at right back, so I don't think there'll be any change there. Dunkey and Van Heck at the back, formidable pairing. I think Dunkey's playing one of his best seasons for us this year. off the back of probably one of his worst seasons. Weirdly, I think he's got rid of a few injury problems, and again, a player that understands his limitations and his adapted his game again. De Kuyper has been fantastic at left back for us. I think a massive improvement on Purvis to Stupinian. The midfield, people might be a bit shocked to not see Carlos Baleba there. But I think Carlos Baleba, I think his head's gone, to be honest with you. I think it's been turned. I think he'll be gone in January.
It's interesting.
After he gets back from the AFCON, I just don't think he's in it anymore. So I've gone with the Yari, who's been fantastic for us, and Diego Gomez, who came in from Inter Miami and has scored a few goals for us this season and looks dangerous.
Yeah.
The three behind Danny Welbeck, Yankuba Minter on the right has been electric. His counter press is ridiculous. His pace is crazy. So look out for him. The junior, as I said, does that dirty work for Danny Welbeck, does all the physical stuff. I think he is 50-50 on whether he's going to start. He came off with a head injury against Forest.
Okay,
But if he is fit to go, I would like to see him in the number 10. If not, it would be Brian Gruder, who I think has been also very good through the middle. Ferdi Kadioglu, normally a fullback, but De Kuyper and Ferdi Kadioglu have developed a little bit of a partnership. And in all honesty, I'm not 100% sure if Karim Matoma gets back into the squad at the moment. Considering how successful their partnership's been, they can double up in defensive areas, they can overlap, underlap. They've got a really good understanding of each other, so that's definitely a partnership that people should look out for. And Danny Welbeck up top, I've said enough about Welbs. If given the chance, he will put it in the back of the net.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see how we're going to try and counteract this, mate, because the pace is a problem for us, right? This is a little bit what I think Emery will do, but I think there's a couple of things that I would like to see happen, which again, like you say, I'm not a Premier League manager, so it won't be this way. But because of that pace down your right hand side, as much as Luca Digne has been outstanding for us, it happened against Wolves on Sunday. He was just like ran past like he wasn't even there on a couple of occasions, and thankfully we've got a decent goalkeeper between the sticks that kind of saves our bacon, which is probably the crucial point. So I'm hoping to see Maatsen just because of that pace. I think it's like a cat and mouse game with these two, because I think Maatsen's not quite as defensively sound as Luca Digne, but he does offer something with his pace going forwards, and he's been getting better defensively when he's played. And it seems to me that Emery's quite good at swapping these two out on a regular basis. So I think he is gaining Emery's confidence, and it's just whether he feels, how important this game is, like you say, because it feels like a bit of a 6-pointer for where we are going into the month of December. So we'll probably stick with Digne for that soundness, but I would personally like to see Maatsen, because I think he's got that little bit of pace to maybe contradict what you've got down that right hand side. And speaking of pace, it's Pau Torres in the middle, mate. So Pau Torres for me is a fantastic defender when the play is in front of him. Like if you play in front of us, he's positionally very sound. His distribution with the ball is very good. It gets us moving up the field. Particularly him and Tielemans link up very well and do that very well together. And that's the key to success for us, because if you turn him towards his own goal, mate, he's slower than me. Like, he's absolutely slower than me. Like, it's embarrassing to watch at times, and you go, oh God, right, that's a problem. And I think better teams like yourself will target that. I think if you can manoeuvre us around and kind of get him on his, a couple of teams have tried it against us, but thankfully we've been outstanding in that pivot of midfield. Whoever's played there, whether that be Tielemans or Kamara or Anana and Kamara, that we've really kind of managed to keep that play in front of us. So this will be where this is where the game's won and lost. I think Konza and Cash speak for themselves, because we've got no real replacements. Mings is out injured. We've got no other right back, proper right back that can play there instead of Cash. So I think that's 100% given. And Cash has been arguably one of our best players this year, mate, which I never thought I'd say, because I genuinely thought he wasn't there or at that level. But this is what Emery does. He gets people to raise their levels, and I'll always eat my words and take my hat off and say credit where it's due when players, hit those heights. And Matty Cash has done that this year, so fair play to him. I just spoke about these two. I think it will be these two, but Tielemans is coming back from an injury, and again on Sunday he had a poor game against Wolves by his standards, and I think it's just a little bit of lack of game time, if I'm honest. But he's our midfield maestro. He's the one that has the key to unlocking defences. Like I say, between him and Pau, they move the ball forward pretty quickly. When we're on it, we cause problems for everybody, because it's getting the ball to Rodgers, who will cause any defence any problems, mate, because he's an absolute animal. But they've got to be up for it, and this is the key. We've won our last 4 games really without playing very well. We've had moments of quality in games. Against Leeds, I thought we were dreadful, but we absolutely scored 2 wonder goals really. And it was the same against Wolves. I thought Wolves were the better side in the first half. They completely outpaced us. If it wasn't for Martinez, we'd have been 1-0 down at half time. And goals change games. That's my famous saying. I think I want to get a T-shirt, mate, because it's so true. And so we've got options in those 3 behind the one up top, and I think he will stick with what he started with on Sunday. I think he'll go with Marlon again because he's looked the most likely. It's difficult to ignore his goal to game ratio where Watkins is, and it's just whether he goes with Buendia and McGinn. I think he puts McGinn in because he feels like he's undroppable because he's been our engine. But he's wasted on the right-hand side because he doesn't really offer any width. But having said that, he was excellent against Wolves on Sunday and was probably our best player in that position, and it caused a lot of problems. But historically, he doesn't. Yeah, he's wasted out wide. And what he does offer is that cover for Cash, and he'll drop into the middle when he needs to. He's just an excellent player, really. He's been our, for me, Captain Marvel this year. And Buendia is the same. He's been a revelation, mate, because I thought his career at Villa was over. Like when he went to Leverkusen on loan, I thought, okay. And at that point, I didn't think he was good enough anyway, if I'm honest. Like, he'd come back from a really terrible ACL injury, and I felt sorry for him because there was always snippets of, yes, he could make it. But this year, he's proven all his critics wrong. He scored goals. He's been really creative. I will say that against Wolves on Sunday, they were too physical for us. It was a derby game, and he kind of got bullied off the ball a little bit and never really got into the game. So got subbed off at half-time, which I think was probably the right decision. But again, I think Emery's got some faith in him and some trust. And then it's Donny Marlon up top, mate. And it's all down to how him and Rodgers link up, because they've started to show some sort of understanding in the last few games, and of course, real problems. Like Daniel Marlon he's rapid, he's really quick, his movement's excellent, and he can finish. And so I think it will come down to, can we take our chances when we create them? I think it's going to be a tight game, mate. I really do. I think because not only do we play a similar formation, I think it's going to be like a bit of a chess game. It's who turns up for it most. You're at home, so I expect you to come flying at us. If you do that, I think you're opening up to us being able to play through those lines and causing you some problems in behind ourselves. So it just depends on what Villa turn up, really. So yeah. I'm looking forward to the game, mate. I really am. I think it's going to be electrifying. Like you say, who'd have thought it was going to be a Champions League 6-pointer?
Exactly.
So that will get us on to, mate, score predictions. If we get you back to the big screen, there we go. And I'm just. Why is that not working? Come on, there we go. So. Yeah, as you're the guest, mate, please feel free. What are you thinking? What's your score prediction?
It's a tough one. I look at the previous seasons a lot in terms of like gauging what's going to happen, and obviously you guys had our number a little bit at home, but then at Villa Park we sort of seem to cancel each other out in ways, and we're able to create. So I think Hertzler would have done a lot more homework on how we can hurt an Emery side, and especially as you say, as you guys are sort of like us stumbled out the blocks, there were a few weaknesses that have been showing. So as you say, it's just going to be about who can expose the weaknesses the most. I normally vow to myself that I'll always go with my heart with predictions on opposition podcasts, so I'll do the same here. So I am going to say 3-2 to the Albion. but I would snap your hand off for a draw right now. That would keep the peace in the family, at least, anyway.
Absolutely. Well, mate, I'm like you. I have a head and heart battle every time I do a show, and my heart says 2-1 Villa. I think that would be the perfect result, but my head says just don't lose the game. I'd take a scrappy 0-0, a scrappy 1-1, like just to get over the line, because, like I say, we've got a run of fixtures that we're going to need to be on fire for. We've got only 2 home games in December, which starts with Arsenal on Saturday and then Man United on the 21st. And I think if we can win those, we put ourselves in a really strong position. So it's just about picking up points away from home. You know, we've got West Ham away, then we've got Chelsea and Arsenal away. You know, I think it's a little bit unfair that we've got Arsenal twice in 3 weeks, right? But, you know, there you go.
Yeah, I was on the Villa Forever podcast with Chad Williams. I don't know if you know Chad.
Yes, yeah, I know Chad. Yeah,
and he brought up the fixtures yesterday, and I was like, Arsenal twice in the space of 3 weeks is brutal. But I don't know. On his podcast, I backed you guys to beat them at Villa Park. I went to Villa Park last year, and it could be a fortress. Like it's noisy.
We are, like I say, we've lost 1 game in 24. Emery has turned it into a fortress, and actually, I'm more nervous about playing you guys tomorrow than I am about playing Arsenal on Saturday. I fancy us at home against anybody, like I really do. I think there's something different, but you know, yeah, our away form's not great. So, I mean, I did say on last week's show that I was could we win the league? You know, because it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Emery could just sneak up and snatch it off Arteta from the, But I'm just watching the Man City game in the background, and they're smashing Fulham 5-2. I just think you write them off, at your peril, right? That takes them into 2 points of Arsenal. If Arsenal don't win against tomorrow, it's
they'll have a few points deducted anyway. Don't worry.
Well, mate, I hope to see them playing at leisure leagues, let alone kind of in any kind of Premier League with what's been going on. It would be great. But if Arsenal slip up tomorrow and then we can beat them on Saturday, it's wide open, isn't it? So. Let's see. I mean, I don't think for 1 second we'll win the league. I don't think we've got enough depth in our squad. We don't score enough goals. We're a Haaland away from doing that, as are most teams. But you could say that you guys have got favour in that because you've got Danny Welbeck who's scoring for fun. And while that's happening, you give yourselves a fighting chance, right? If you beat us tomorrow.
So what you're saying is Brighton could win the league.
I'm just saying, if I can believe it about the Villa, mate, if you win tomorrow, do you start believing? You go above us. You kind of it's one of those, isn't it? I know it's only 1 game and it's a long season. And the thing for both Villa and Brighton is whether we can keep our key players fit and whether, and it's all about that consistency going into the second half of the season, right? Because at the end of December, the league will have literally kind of be telling us where teams are likely to finish. So it's all to play for, mate. This month is massive for everyone in that top kind of 12.
I fully blame Leicester City for this conversation. If Leicester City had never won the Premier League, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. It could happen, and odds have been slashed dramatically from when they were 5,000 to 1. I blame Leicester City, who currently 16th in the bloody Championship, by the way. It's just mad.
They've given us that false hope, mate.
Exactly.
And it's the hope that kills you, right? So, right, Joe, that about does it, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. I massively appreciate it. If you just stick around for a couple of minutes after the intro plays out, and we'll say a proper goodbye. It just leaves me to say, enjoy the game tomorrow, mate. Good luck. I hope you don't win, obviously. But we'll see what happens. I'll be watching it with close eyes. But like you say, enjoy the game where if you're travelling down Villains, make sure you're safe. You'll have a great time. The Amex is a magnificent stadium. It's slightly early kickoff, so you should be able to get home on the train all right as well. We'll see you on the next episode. And as always, every week we follow the boys in claret and blue. Peace. Till next time.